Welcome to the Craft Parenting Podcast, a podcast about two Cincinnati craft beer lovers with a parenting problem.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, so this is a bonus episode, and we are back with Tony.
Hello.
And of course, my lovely wife and co-host, Caroline.
Yo, yo, yo.
And we are going to talk about a hobby that you have, Tony.
That mildly perplexes us. And I don't know if I could ever have this hobby. I'm surprised that it's legal to have this hobby.
Legal. Oh my gosh, get out of here. I mean, technically you have to be old enough before they let you do it usually.
Usually.
Well, did you hear recently? So it's running.
Yeah, it's running. Sorry, not to
No, you're good.
break the lead.
No, because I was going to just spoil it because you're kind of making a joke out of it. But there's the kid in Cincinnati, the Flying Pig.
Yeah, that 6-year-old.
That like 6-year-old
whatever.
that like with their parents like ran the marathon. And I don't know if like how much the child actually ran it, but
Yeah, that
I think you have to be.
must
I think you have to be at least 18 to like officially sign up for a marathon.
Yeah, they gave an exception, right? Is that what
'Cause
happened?
the
I'm not
family-
sure.
I feel like
The Flying Pig said, yeah, you can sign them up because you're going to do it anyway, basically. That was
Yeah.
Which
their
is fair.
reasoning.
Yeah.
so it's like now he's protected under our umbrella, but they also accepted lots of liability by doing that.
Oh yeah.
Like a bunch of international backlash. Because I feel like the Daily Mail picked it up. Of like, look what this kid in Cincinnati did. And I'm like, hey, it's my hometown for not a great reason. I'm so surprised.
So, how did you get into running? And we can talk about where that has led to, because that's the part where we can't fathom
Oh.
necessarily. I mean, I can understand people running, but you have
Super long
done
distance.
some. They're called ultra marathons,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Which is a marathon is 26 miles,
26.2. Yeah.
and an ultra marathon is
Basically, just anything longer than
anything
that.
longer than
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
you've done a 50-mile.
Yes. A 50-mile marathon.
Yeah, so that's the whole part where we can't fathom.
Oh yeah. I mean, people can't even fathom just liking running. So
Yeah.
so you're good.
I mean, it gives you endorphins, and endorphins
Mhm.
make you happy, and happy people don't kill their husbands, so it's fine.
You kind of looked at me funny for that. So how did you get into running? And let's start there.
It's funny. So I'm trying to think about. So I ran in high school. So I went through like a chunky phase in the end of grade school and early high school, and my parents strove to get me to, because I was always active-ish, but like I was never just like this like intense sloth. But like I always just like I found a love of Mountain Dew and Doritos at a certain age.
A
Yeah,
teenage boy liking Mountain Dew and Doritos? That does not sound right.
And my family too, it's very we're very snacky, so there's a lot of like there's always food everywhere, like
Oh, yeah.
chips and
And
M&Ms
shitty dip
and shitty dip, and what was it? Like we had like every type of soda in the basement. It was like cheap Kroger brand, but every type of soda, and so there's a lot of that. And so like in my parents, like my mom used to, we'd walk. Every day I got home from school, I had to walk before I could come in, and we would on Saturdays we get up and we'd like walk the whole neighborhood. We do sweat into the oldies. We do all this stuff, and so eventually I just kind of from walking was like had started kind of running some. And some of my friends in high school were on that I kind of became friends with early on in high school were on the track and cross country teams. And so I was like, I kind of started doing it as well and really liked it a lot. And just kind of slowly progressed. Like, I ran track first and then realized I prefer distance. Like I was never the fastest, but I was good once we started going long enough, I was decent.
Mm-hmm.
And so then did cross country, did distance track, was going to run in college, but then you couldn't really work a job. And I mean, not that you couldn't, but it was very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard to run collegiately and keep a job. And so I backed out of joining the team. I was like, I don't have these grandeur plans to be an Olympic athlete.
Right.
And so I was happy just running. And so then one of the professors at NKU, one of the chemistry professors, Dr. Ball, she was a big like distance runner, and she talked a lot about different marathons. And it's kind of something I feel like if you're a distance runner, it's almost like a natural progression. Like not everybody runs marathons, but it's just such a thing people talk about. Like I think the two most popular distances of races are a 5K and half marathon. And so it's just something people naturally talk about. And so it kind of just became a thing of like, no, I want to do a marathon. So then trying to think. My first marathon was the Indianapolis Marathon. Was the very first one I did, and I was doing research, and it was like I heard it was very flat because people were always like, "Oh my God, the hills."
Indiana is very flat. They have like 7 hills, and I biked from my cousin's house to like Target one day, and I feel like we hit all 7 hills going that distance. But I was just in Indianapolis last weekend, and I was like, you could bike this. This is very easy to walk. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm going to die.
It was very flat because I remember running it, and I remember people I was near at the time were like, because I don't know if I happened to be passing one of the pacers or near a pacer or somebody who's I'm talking, and they made the joke of, well, here comes the hill, and then immediately it was like, and that was it, and it was like, man, you didn't notice it at all. But that first race, there's so much planning to go into like running long distance because a lot of it's mental. I mean, it is very like it's mentally going through. It's just mentally getting yourself to keep going. Obviously,
Yeah.
you need the fuel, but there's a lot of just the mental fortitude.
Well, there's the joke that's like the first 26 miles are fine. It's the last 0.2 that are going to get you. That's a phrase that I have heard a lot. I have a doctor's note that I got in middle school that says I'm not allowed to run more than 2 miles. And that was just because I was on the cross country team and our meets were 2 miles. So, because he was going to say 1 mile. And I was like, but then I can't do any of my meets. So then he's like, okay, I'll make it 2 miles.
That's interesting. You guys did 2 miles.
It was middle school.
Oh, middle school.
We
Okay,
were-
okay.
we
It was
were
middle school.
tiny
It was,
people.
No, you're good. It was middle school. I'm thinking like, wow,
Yeah.
everything's like a 5K, but then that was high school.
Yeah, high school. And so then I did not continue on with high school. Because so 7th grade, I didn't have any issues. But 8th grade, I developed asthma.
Mm,
And then I was like, yeah, let's not do this.
that's fair.
I could have probably done like some sprinting stuff. Because I
Yeah.
liked sprinting. But I also am very uncoordinated. And just like, I will be in the orchestra. And it's fine.
I was the fat kid in gym class doing the presidential. I think we had to run a mile.
Yeah, like you had to run a mile every year in gym class
Yeah,
under a
same.
certain time.
It wasn't under a certain time, but
They timed
Oh,
it.
ours
They
was-
timed it.
oh, they
Ours
did.
was
They did
timed.
time
Yeah,
it.
they timed
Yeah.
it, but I don't know if we had a requirement either.
Like you didn't.
I-
You didn't fail anything, but it was. You got a award if you got like the presidential award.
Oh, if you met a certain.
If you met a certain criteria.
okay.
Like we did a whole thing. It was the mile. It was
Push-ups,
push-ups, sit-ups.
Oh, Lord, I can't do those.
Yeah, so if you did so many on all those categories, you got for each one, I think, you got the presidential.
Very fancy, very fancy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
signed by the president, supposedly. But
Nice stamp.
I was the guy who,
Yeah.
in grade school, 8th grade, 7th grade, I ran a 10-minute, not even a 10-minute, probably like a 12-minute mile. And a lot of that probably goes into what you were saying about the mental, because we did it in a gym.
Oh yeah,
You had to do 26 laps.
what? And it's oh my gosh, 26 laps. Even that's a lot. That's a small that's
Yeah.
a small gym to keep running in a circle. Well, because I
It
mean,
was something like that.
Yeah.
26, 24. I don't.
but a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Because even like so in when I ran track, I ran the 2 mile was my main race that I did well in, and it's 8 laps on a standard track, and so that's I remember people were like, what do you do? I was like I literally just count the whole time. It's like because you want to lose. I don't want to lose
Yeah,
track
you go
because I want to like
one,
it just sounds dumb. It sounds dumb, but there's a lot of
we
like,
had a partner who would count for us.
I think people did like they would let you
Yeah.
know, but it was more for me. It was also to just think about my pacing in the race too, of like when I would try to like do things. But yeah, well, it's even like 'cause people ask me all the time because I don't run with music or anything. I just run.
Well, yeah, you have. We'll get into that in a second. You have 0 communication devices on
Oh
you.
yeah, no, I do
when
not.
you run.
I do not. I should actually move it to my shoes because I'm not sure what it is right now. My parents got me a dog tag that has like.
I wonder why.
But just because I hate carrying things. I do now have my watch. For a long time, I didn't have the watch in terms of like tracking. I would just pre-map it and go. But yeah, no, I just think. My mind just wanders on random stuff, and I just think. And a lot of people would blows their mind. But you talk about being bored. I cannot run on a treadmill. I mean, not that I can't. I hate treadmills. Because I remember I have run on them, but I could run that like I ran that ultra, 50 miles outdoor in the woods. Had a great time. I run like 2 seconds on a treadmill, and I want to kill myself. Like I hate treadmills. It's something about.
They're not the best.
And some people swear by them or love them or it works for them. They're like, oh, did you watch a show? It's like I had a show on. I'd have rather been just. I feel like it just makes me want to sit or walk. Like the actual running. Like I wanted when I'm running. I enjoy like seeing new scenery or things changing or I feel like I'm progressing.
Okay.
Whereas on a treadmill, it's like, why am I doing this? Like,
And like they say too that it messes with your gait. As far as like instead of you propelling forward, you're just kind of like hopping up and down while the ground moves. So it can mess up your gait when you're trying to like actually do long races.
and it's obviously it's harder. It's also it is weird. even it's not even like because you are propelling yourself too, but it's like there's that extra force that's like working with you. So it's because people you can run faster. It's easier to like easier to get a good pace.
There's
going.
no potholes. There's no uneven ground. It's just this endless loop of going forever.
So you briefly mentioned that you mentioned training.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you don't like treadmills. So this leads to you run in the neighborhood.
Yep.
And so talk about your training. Talk about your training and where you run and how you pick your routes, and because running is exercise in general, like lifting weights. It's not something that you can just do. Like you have to know what you're doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I guess you have some experience with that, with your, running and track and stuff. But talk about how you prepare.
Yeah. So
Very well.
so in general, I mean, if I'm training for a race, I usually kind of pre-make some kind of plan, and I've looked a lot at people outline different things online, and I've read books or two on proper training. I am no coach or training expert, but I've made plans for myself. And the big thing is like with running, people always think you need to be like going like a super hard pace all the time, and a lot of it's in terms of just general planning, you plan different paces. Like you have days that are easy runs where it's like it is a like lighter pace. It is not every day isn't like you're like balls to the wall, super hard, super fast pace. And so there's a lot in terms of like, there are days where you'll do speed workouts where you'll like go like really high intensity speed, like faster than you might normally target. And that's like you do like lots of like interval training. So you'll do like, I'll run really hard for this long and then I have a small break, run really hard, small break. You'll do stuff where it's like a tempo run where that is a like your race day pace, like whatever your target pace is, like you run a certain distance at that pace. And so that's also harder than like, a quote unquote easy run. Not that the easy runs are like, walking, but it's, they're not, they're a recovery pace. Cause like you're like anything you do, like, say you were lifting weights or anything, like if you go really hard one day, you like rest, you have time in between for your body to like
there's
recover.
The whole warm up and then the cool down.
Yep.
Do you do that?
Yeah. And it depends. So like on those easy days, no. But like before on days, so a typical like marathon training for me, you can do a variety of things depending on like your skill level and your mileage and all of that. But typically it'd be like I'd have a long run, I'd have 2 easy runs, I'd have a tempo run, and I'd have that interval training. And then I would have a day or two of rest. It would depend on, and then maybe a day of rest, a day of cross training. But sometimes it would vary. Sometimes I'd run 6 days a week, sometimes 5. It just kind of depends on like how serious I was trying to be. And right now I'm in a weird spot too, because like I'm obviously like I just did the Pittsburgh Marathon this past May, and that was my first marathon post COVID and post recovering, which we can get to in as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
So I'm in a state where I was like I did it very casually. So. As I get back into it, I'll probably like I only did that like 4 or 5 days a week I ran, and then it was like I wasn't worried about pace. I was very happy with how I did in the race, but it was kind of like I'm just getting back into it, just having fun. Like I was trying to like revitalize my like running spirit, because even as somebody who loves to run, it is very easy to fall out of it.
Well, and like not to compare people to dogs, but we have 2 dogs that can be very active or very lazy.
Yep.
We had probably a month or 2 period where we were hiking every weekend, if not twice a weekend. And it was great for our physical health. It was great for our mental health. And the dogs loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Those first 2 or 3 weeks after we stopped doing that, the dogs were a pain in our butt. Every weekend morning, okay, Mom and Dad, you're home. Quick breakfast, and then we're going to hit the trails, right?
Yep.
And we're like, we're going to watch a movie on the couch. And so now they're couch potatoes. They just are like, hey, I'm sedentary. I'm okay with this. This is my life now. Like I took them for a walk this morning and they were so excited. And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to wake up a half hour earlier than usual and we'll start doing morning walks and see where that goes.
And it is like, I agree. Like even for me, like I feel like when I run, I feel like I potentially end up being more productive that day. And if I'm not even more productive, I just am happier. Like running makes me super happy. So it's because
it gives you endorphins.
It does,
and you're less likely to kill your non-existent husband.
It is. This is fair.
Or wife or whatever. You've seen Legally Blonde, right? You get the reference I'm making.
Oh, is that a Legally Blonde reference?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't getting it either.
Oh, okay. It's like the crux of her big case. She's like...
that's her argument.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's part of her argument.
I know what you're talking about now.
Because because exercise gives you endorphins, and endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't shoot their husbands.
I got you now. I'm with you now.
Okay. Was
And
it a
then-
murder case?
It was a murder case. And then
Okay.
she goes into the chemical compounds of getting your hair permed and how if you get it wet, you totally
You're listening.
decompromise the sodium thioglycolate or something. And then she gets, I thought I was killing you, not my father.
Okay.
Spoilers for Legally Blonde if you have not seen Legally Blonde, even though it's been out for forever.
We were talking about stuff.
Endorphins and how
Just
running
like I
makes
have
Tony
lost interest.
running makes Tony happy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and he's happy he's getting back
Oh,
into
it's
running
training.
again.
You're asking just generally about training.
training.
Yeah, and
And
so
how important it is.
yeah, and so it's very important, obviously, to like if you're whatever distance you're running for, it's important to train for that distance. So every distance has different like mileage things and whatever to go for. So for like the longer the distance, like there is a point where so for like a normal marathon, like the typical like max mileage that people run is 20 miles. Even so, it's not quite a full marathon. So typically, you know, like for like my first marathon. That the day of the marathon was the first time I actually ran that distance. Prior to that, it was just 20 miles. Because I'm pretty sure there's lots of different plans. Like Hal Higdon, I think is a popular like beginners plan. There's lots of plans out there that you can easily find online at different things that they like say like, you know, here's a general plan to follow. There's even like because I got really serious a couple years back to try to like train for Boston, to train to qualify for Boston, I should say, and there was a site that I looked at in terms of like, here's like our recommended, like calculate your paces. Like if this is your hope, like your target race pace to hit like the race time you want, then this is your pace you should do for easy runs. This is your pace for intervals, tempos, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot around and like seeing, like pushing yourself and seeing what you can do. What I was gonna say about just running is very easy though at the same time. Like I can just walk out, like as long as you have running shoes, I can just walk out the door and run. Like there's no, I don't have to go to a gym. I don't have to have special equipment. I don't have to like super know like form of everything. Like it's you obviously want good form for running, but it's less immediately detrimental. Maybe it's the right word. Like if you lift weights wrong, you could seriously hurt yourself. If you run a little weird, you might just feel weird and need to like correct your form. And so it's very like easy to get into. And I feel like it's why a lot of people want to like it. I also feel like people don't have to like it. And the number of people I talk to, sorry, I'm going to kind of like ramble around with running.
We do this all the time. You're fine.
The number of people I talk to who are like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, I don't really like running, or like they'll like try to like make reasons of like, you don't have to like running. Like, do the exercise that you enjoy, because if you enjoy it, you'll actually want to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, I just super enjoy it. So that's good. But I don't know if because I've been talking to my nephew, my oldest nephew, runs track as well. So he'll be 16 this year.
Oh, cool.
And so I think his parents were like, can you like help him? Like, and we've run different times together, me and Oscar. And he's like, can you help him in terms of like trying to improve some? Because they feel like he's kind of stagnating, and not that he has to improve, but like just general like figuring out your pace. Because like when I'm running, I can kind of tell. I mean, obviously I have a watch now that like I could look at and it says what pace I'm going, but I can tell if I'm going a little too fast or a little too slow, or like what pace I'm holding. I have like a general idea just from years of running of like, oh, I can tell like this is probably roughly the pace I'm going. And Oscar doesn't have that. And a lot of like what I tell him, I was like, you know, again, I am not an expert. Like any of your coaches likely know more than I do. But the thing I always say is like, you just kind of have to try. Like you just kind of push yourself. And especially if you have your watch, like I know they can't wear it in some races, but like if your watch when you're training, you can just try and just see like, how do I feel when I'm trying to hold a faster pace than normal? And because a lot of running to me is just trial and error.
So let's kind of wrap it up with the actual ultra marathon itself.
Oh, yeah.
You've at least done one, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I've done, let's see. So in terms of races I've done, I like the idea of doing a marathon plus in every state, if not broader than that, like maybe other countries, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so far I've done 5 states, I think. So I did Indiana was my first one with the Indianapolis Marathon. I did the Flying Pig for Ohio. Then I think actually literally I think just after 2 marathons, I did an ultra. And so my cousin, so how I even thought about ultras was my cousin is an avid ultra marathoner. So she does.
So it runs the crazy runs in the family.
Yeah, probably.
Literally runs.
It literally runs.
Yeah, and so she's done a lot of different stuff out west. So that's where she's at right now. She's a PhD, and she has she's actually out. She just moved to the Los Alamos in New Mexico, I think. But anyways, she's out there, and so I actually reached out to her and kind of talked to her. So I looked at different races, and I did one in Tennessee, the Natchez Trace Trail Run. It was a 50-mile run on that trail. It was an out and back, so you ran 25 miles, turned around and came back. And so when I was doing that, I'm trying to think when that was. That was I think 2018, the fall of 2018, I believe, is when I ran that. Because I remember like so I'd only done road marathons at that point, and so I was a little naive because I trained on the trail because I wanted to train. So I ran a lot at Mount Airy. I ran a lot at the Miami Whitewater. I would just go. I think I ran some at Davao. Like I would just go to like either mountain biking trails or like city trail, like some kind of like woodsy trail that like was dirt paths, rooty, rocky, hilly, as best I could to mimic
what you thought was
what I thought would be on the trail.
running
Yeah,
there.
because it's like that's what you want to do. And now I did do runs on the road still, but I did my long runs. So when you get into like the ultras and anything, there's a lot in terms of like, because like for regular marathons, they say like, if you can run 20 miles, then you kind of know, like as long as you keep your body fuel, you should be able to keep going. And there's a similar mindset with ultras in terms of what I was reading, but you still like the furthest I ran was actually 30 miles. That I did not. So there was 20 miles I had never run prior to that race day. And a lot of it's just running long enough. And other people I'm sure might have trained smarter and like run further. I didn't maybe do as much research as I should have in terms of like, this is the exact like ideal way to train. But my thought going into it was, what I would do is on that Saturday, I would get up early because the race started really early. So I need to train running in the dark on the trail. So I'd have my headlamp and I'd go on the trail. And I remember when I ran at Miami Whitewater, I would play like, is it deer eyes or a bike mileage sign? Like, because you'd see stuff reflect off your light, and it's like it was very peaceful, very calming too, because it's like just no noise. It's just darkness and you running in the woods, which maybe doesn't sound appealing to everybody. But
I understand as someone who decided randomly that they were going to lay out in the front yard for 20 minutes last night to stare up at the stars. Like I get that
peaceful
one with nature peacefulness, but I also am very hesitant to be in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night without anyone nearby in case if I need help.
Yeah. And probably too, like I have some friends, female friends too. It's like, it's just different. Like there's things you don't think about. Like, 'cause I remember, so as an experience, I remember training for a race running on the road, and I remember I was running and a car had like pulled up and was going really slow next to me, and like started talking. The guy started talking to me, and it's like, I was like, what the hell? And I'm just like running, and he was like, oh, I'd love to keep talking. Like, want to pull over to keep talking? I was like, no. I had never been so creeped out in my life. And I remember like I had a whole run planned out, and I don't think I had a watch at the time, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to go this way, and hopefully that's like similar mileage. And cause I was like trying to get like away as fast as I could, because I was running just like on like West Fork, like in and around like Airy. So like also roads don't really have sidewalks, so it was kind of like I pre-planned it, and I was like, this is probably not a great way to run.
And Airy can be really sketch sometimes.
Yeah.
So
it was one of those moments where I remember I got back and I was like, that was kind of terrifying. I was like, that's probably very similar to how a lot of women feel running, or just in general being in like someone's being creepy situation. But so I get up early to run, and what I didn't quite think about, because I had a relatively packed fall. I went on a West trip. I had different weddings to go to. I didn't factor into how much time it was going to take to train, because on the trail, I am probably 4 minutes per mile slower than on the road. You feel just as fast, if not faster, but just like
I can believe that.
Yeah, just like it's different. It's more technical terrain. It's not just like hard concrete. So it's just your like striking ability is just different.
And you're taking that extra like half second to calculate, okay, if I put my foot here versus there, which one is the more safer option?
Yeah. And it's just one of those, like, I went from like, I'd run, I don't know, if I'm just like casually running, it's like 8 to 9 minutes per mile. And then on the trail now it's like 12 to 13. And it's like, that's a huge time commitment that I didn't plan for. Especially when it's like, so part of what I was kind of getting to with running for ultras is I would not run a ton, like super long, like, on a weekend where I'd run 30 miles on Saturday, I would then on Sunday, you do like a back-to-back long run. So I might do like 12 miles. So you do like two, like, I know 12's not super long, but you do like two like longer runs together as opposed to all at the same time. And there's a lot of like just trying, like testing things. So like when I did that, because I think I did 2:30s, maybe 3. But so when I did that, I would also be training like how I'd fuel myself. Because like, I want to make sure my body reacts well to any food I would eat or any like things I would drink. So like I had my like little like vest that I was going to wear, and like had my carried my water on me, my food, because that's how I was going to be on the trail. Like if I needed anything, the race I did, every like I think 7-ish miles, there was like a aid booth that they had on this race, and there was I think there was like 30 of us that did it. So like it wasn't a huge giant race. They did have a marathon that also went the opposite direction. So like as we were running, we like crossed the marathon people, and so I think there were 30-ish that did or maybe it was 30 that finished the actual like ultra, the 50 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And so so just in general with training, it just took a lot out of me. And I remember thinking I would never train for it again. And I remember I got to the actual race day, and it was beautiful weather out. It took me 10 hours. So it was 10 hours of running, which to some people might sound horrible, but
Was that constant running, or did you take a break?
it was essentially constant running. So when I would get to a booth, I would stop for a second to like refill my water, but then I would instantly be going again. So if I stopped, it was always like a minute max. Like it was, so there were like, it wasn't like I was,
I'm going to go pee behind this tree.
yeah, and that did
Or-
happen. So there
yeah.
was like, it was interesting too, because I was basically just like I was just running like for the first quarter. I mean, well, the first part you're like running, it's like it's pitch dark. There's like rocks, there's everything to dodge and run. You're like kind of still with everybody or with most of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting a compliment, like I was saying, like somebody's behind me. I was like, yeah, I'm new to this. If you need to pass me, like just do that. Like I'm trying to figure out what my pace is and how to go. And I remember the girl was like, no, you have great footwork. And I remember thinking like it was a weird like compliment to
Yeah.
receive. Maybe not as a runner, but it was just odd in the moment. I remember too because my parents went down, and I told them, I was like, I don't know how much you're gonna be able to see me, and they ended up actually seeing me a fair bit because like it was every 7 miles. They were able to drive to each station, and it was actually very uplifting to like see my parents be like, oh my god, and it's like even the A station people were great. So they're all like people that are very like active in running, so like they're super excited to see you. Like they had all kinds of food, and I remember initially like I was gonna just sustain off peanut butter breads because I was like that's what I trained with. And very quickly, I was like, yeah, no, I'm just going to start eating all this food. And so it was basically a day of like running and eating.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful weather. I talked to people like, so after the initial part, I talked to this girl for like a quarter of the race who she was trying to train for a 200-mile race.
Oh my God.
And so that's like multiple days. And I asked her, I was like, well, how do you sleep? And she's like, well, you just kind of find a spot to like run off a little and like take a cat nap. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. Because to me, it was very nice when I planned to do the 50 was like, I knew it'd be a day. I knew like I wouldn't have to worry about the like I need to sleep at some point. It was just like it's start and ends and it's over. Because we started at like 6 a.m. and then I was done 10 hours later, so it's done like 4 o'clock. So it was just a nice day. And then later on there's another guy we ran together for like a half the race or a quarter of the race, and we talked. And there was a girl, Sally, that we ran the whole like end of the half race almost together. Like we'd be separated briefly, but then like we'd catch back up. And it's like we like it was just kind of neat, just like bond with some random stranger you'll probably never see again, but. It was a beautiful day. It was fun. And I remember after I did it, I was like, I might see myself doing this again because I just had such a good experience. But yeah, it was a blast.
In that situation, when you're talking to someone and you're running, do you try to be polite and you keep to their pace, or is the goal to finish first in an ultra marathon, or is it just to finish?
My goal was just to finish.
Okay.
So I'm sure there are people that run them competitively in some aspect, and at that point you would likely not run with a person. You would likely, unless you actually are kind of pacing together. But my goal throughout all those, I'm just planning to finish, and I just want to have a good time, and both of those were achieved. So
Okay.
I remember my parents, because my parents knew I had a lot of like worries just about, I hope I can finish. And they're like, you look great every time you came out. And like, also like, oh my gosh, like he said he wasn't like, I ended up, I think, coming in third overall in the race. And which is not necessarily saying a lot, but it's like, I remember they're thinking like, wow, and you just were like one of the first people to come out, like just like looking so great every time. And it was funny early because I had so many layers on. And every stop, I was like throwing my clothes. My parents like too much clothing.
It's strip running.
It really was. I mean, granted, I kept a shirt and shorts on. I did not go fully shirtless, but I might have happened if I didn't have my little vest on. But yeah, it was a blast. But I did that, and then my other kind of sort of stint into ultras. Then I did races in Kentucky. So I did the Kentucky Dirt, like the Derby race marathon, and they have like a back-to-back challenge, or the trail marathon I did the next day. So I did the road marathon on Saturday, and then I did a trail marathon on the following Sunday. So it's kind of my ultra in like terms of like pushing myself in terms of that. And then I signed up for the California International Marathon I think it's in San Diego, and that was my goal, was to train really hard for that very seriously in 2019, the fall of 2019, to then hopefully qualify for Boston. Because I think my best time I had has been a 3:15, 3 hours 15 minutes in terms of marathon. And at my age bracket, so I'm 31. At the time, I guess I'd have been 29 or 28 or something. But even still now, like I need to be at least 3 hours. So I had a fair amount to shave off in terms of time. But I felt like I could, because I yet to super, super seriously train. Like, I was serious enough, but not like I wasn't super stressing it. And so I got very regiment in terms of what I was going to do. And I felt really great through all of it. And there was a very hot day As you guys know, there's very very hot day. I was running. I was running after work, and it was during my tempo run. And I remember I was going, and I was trying to go really hard, and I came through an intersection, and I got hit by a car. And to segue into that, we've kind of joked and alluded about it. And so that was in the fall of 2019, and I remember I got hit. I remember just like all of a sudden like spinning and hitting the ground, and I just remember thinking like, I think I got hit by a car. And then next I was like, oh my God, my time. And I instantly stood up and started running again. And I got like out of the intersection and onto like the sidewalk. And as I was getting there, I was like, I don't feel great.
Because kids, this is what shock will do to you.
Oh my God.
And so then I just remember like, and I was like, I should stop. And so I sat down, and I turned my watch off, and I like kind of like all of a sudden a bunch of people would like run over like, oh my gosh, are you all right? And this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm fine. And then all of a sudden like there's blood coming down my arm. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not fine.
Because again, this is what shock will do to you.
And so I had, I still have scars on my arm from it. And but basically I got very lucky. So I went over top of the guy's car, shattered his windshield. So I had a bunch of glass in my arm, and they took me to UC, I think, hospital.
Because you think he was going over 30, right?
Yeah. Well, he hit me. I think they said he was probably going at least 30 to 40. So I was very lucky that I got out of it with like basically just like I had a slightly displaced rib for a little bit. That just it wasn't like it just naturally went back into place. And then I had only fractured my foot. I swore I broke my hip because I remember landing on my foot and hitting my hip. I remember thinking like, oh my God, I probably broke my hip or something. But I was very lucky. I had a fracture on my foot, and I had like a tore up arm from glass. But outside that, no concussion, no.
But what were you carrying on you at the time?
At the time, I was just in runner shorts. And a watch. Like I didn't have a shirt on. I had like short runner shorts too. Like it was
the hoochie daddy shorts.
The hoochie daddy shorts of the runners.
Yeah, hearing you recap this like originally, and then hearing you recap it now, it's terrifying.
Oh, I mean, it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, oh my gosh, do you like have all this trauma from it? I was like, I don't think so. I said, if anything, I have more trauma as a driver, because as a runner, I've always known like if you're turning right out of somewhere, I guarantee you're not paying attention to the sidewalk. The number of times I have almost been hit by people turning right. So this person was just going straight and went through the light, and so that was just different. But the number of times I will. If you don't make eye contact with me, I will run around behind your car. I will not. I don't care if it's red. I don't care if it's that. Because the number of times I've almost been hit because somebody doesn't look. Like they're looking left to make sure a car's not coming, and then immediately super hard turn. So it's as a driver, I feel like I'm hyper aware. That's if anything, that's been more where the trauma is. Like I don't want to hit somebody. But I don't know if I call it trauma, but I'm just more aware of it.
Yeah, and so like just being your friend, like this event gave me way more anxiety in regards to you than I had before this. Because pre-kids, we would like text the group chat, hey, do y'all want to get together tonight and like do a potluck and play some board games? And like everybody else would respond, and we'd all get together and we're like, has anybody heard from Tony? No? Well, I guess he's okay. And then like late in the day on Sunday, we would get a text from Tony. Hey guys, I just saw your text message. I just took my phone out of airplane mode. I was in Red River Gorge for the weekend. I started climbing with these guys that I never met before. And I went on a hike with this other couple that I had never met before. And we're like, did anybody else know you were there? Like, this is how you're going to get murdered.
Yeah, I'll say so from that, after that incident, my parents got me a little dog tag to put on my shoes. I did for a long time I'd throw it on my shoes, but I need to move it to my new shoes. I think it's just sitting on a end table or on a desk.
Please do that. I've always been the mom friend, and I understand that, but let me mom you for a second until you do that as soon as you get home.
Oh my God.
Well, Tony,
we're very glad that you're safe.
They're glad that you're safe, and holy crap, ultra marathons.
Yeah.
Congratulations for finishing, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do that.
I'll say it's all I want to say it's all mental, but there's obviously a physical side as well. But mental is a huge part.
Well, just the training. I know
Yeah.
you run after work. Just with your work schedule, I'm assuming you go in early.
Yep.
And you come out early because 8 hours. Or
Yeah.
whatever. So you run at basically 2.
Yeah. So I will try to, like, especially this past week, like I tried to get up earlier and run like before work, just because it's like I'm not trying to run in like 110 index heat or
when
whatever.
the low for the day is 77. Yeah,
That's
I'm gonna
pretty
run
bad.
at 5 o'clock in the morning when it's 77, not 2 p.m. when it's 96 and feels like 103.
Yeah.
That was a fun week.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. And
Not a problem.
on this bonus episode. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you share the show with your friends. We
Right.
are on all the podcast platforms.
Yep. Like, comment, subscribe on all the social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we have a blog. We have a website, www.craftparentingpodcast.com.
And we will see you guys later.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Tony's just struggling with our dining room table.
It is weird. Right? It moves. and
Yeah.
stuff.
Dude, but this is apparently this is expensive now.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Like 1 of 50 sidebars. This is Joe's grandmother's dining room table,
Oh, okay.
and it's her dining room table cover. My mom has a similar shaped but much smaller dining room table that is now their kitchen table because they downsized. And she looked into getting covers like this for her table. It was going to be like $200.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
And I'm like, I think that's what we paid Grandma for all of the furniture that we got from her. I don't remember.
It's I was gonna say I don't know if it's like a material thing, but also just maybe like people don't get these that often anymore. So it might
Yeah.
just be like a
Well, I feel like
niche
usually
buy.
people put like a tablecloth over them, but it's also impossible to find a tablecloth this big these
I
days.
mean, we have both leaves.
Yeah,
We
I
can
could
take the leaves out.
I could probably make a tablecloth, but I don't know if Joe wants me to get my sewing machine out anytime soon because that then becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And the children cannot be near it.